Part 1. The testing phase, how control really begins. Section 1. The most dangerous lie about manipulation. Most people believe manipulation starts with control. It doesn't. Manipulation starts with testing. No manipulator ever begins by dominating you. That would be risky. That would expose intent. Instead, they probe. They measure. They experiment. Before someone tries to control you, they need answers to 3 questions. How reactive are you? How much resistance do you show? How much disrespect will you tolerate without pushing back? These questions are never asked directly. They are tested behaviorally. And most people fail these tests without ever realizing a test occurred. Section 2. Why manipulators never attack F. RST. Manipulators are not impulsive. They are efficient. They understand something most people don't. Direct confrontation reveals power levels too early. So instead of attacking, they observe. They create small moments of ambiguity, slight disrespect, minor boundary crossings, casual dismissals, jokes that don't feel right. These moments are not accidental. They are diagnostic. Each test extracts information, and every reaction you give becomes data. Section 3. The difference between confident people and tar. Gets. Here is a pattern you must understand. Confident people. Do not rush to explain. Do not overcorrect. Do not seek emotional closure. Targets do. Targets try to restore harmony immediately. They laugh things off. They clarify intentions. They soften tension. Manipulators look for this reflex. Not kindness. Not intelligence. Predictability. Predictable people are easy to steer. CC. Tauan 4. The first test. Can you be made uncomfortable? Rootable? The earliest test is almost invisible. It's not aggressive. It's subtle discomfort. Examples. A delayed reply. A dismissive tone. Ignoring something you said. Slight sarcasm. This test is not about dominance. It's about tolerance. The manipulator is asking, will you absorb discomfort to keep peace? If you do, you signal something critical. You value harmony more than self-respect. That single signal opens the door to escalation. See. Tauan 5. Why good people fail? First. Good people fail manipulation tests faster than bad people. Why? Because good people assume good intent. They interpret discomfort as miscommunication, stress, accident. Manipulators exploit this generosity. They rely on your internal dialogue. I'm probably overthinking this. That sentence is a green light. The moment you dismiss your discomfort, the manipulator learns. You self-correct. You self-blame. You delay confrontation. That's not empathy. That's vulnerability. See. Tauan 6. The harmless is probe. Most tests are disguised as harmless behavior. A joke. A tease. A comment framed as honesty. If you react, the manipulator watches how. Do you? Laugh nervously? Explain yourself? Justify? Minimize your feelings? Each response reveals emotional sensitivity, need for approval, conflict avoidance. The manipulator doesn't need to push harder yet. They've already found the seam. Section 7. Testing is not personal, it's strategic. This part is important. Manipulators don't test because they dislike you. They test because they don't know you yet. Testing is how they decide how much respect to give, how far they can go, whether you're worth investing effort into controlling. If you resist early, they usually disengage. Manipulators don't enjoy resistance. They enjoy leverage. Section 8. The silent test. You missed. Some tests involve absence, not action. Silence. Withdrawal. Distance. This test checks. Do you chase? Do you fill the gap? Do you overcompensate? If you rush to restore contact, you communicate, I'm uncomfortable without access to you. That's valuable information. It tells the manipulator, you fear disconnection. You will move first. You will concede ground. Silence becomes a leash if you react to it. Section 9. Why reactions matter more than words. Manipulators don't care what you say. They care what you do under pressure. Words are cheap. Reactions are expensive. Your body language, your timing, your emotional shifts. These are the signals being read. The calmer you remain, the less data you give. The more you explain, the more data you leak. Section 10. The escalation rule. Here is the rule manipulators follow. If a test succeeds, escalate. If it fails, retreat. Escalation does not mean violence. It means slightly stronger disrespect, more frequent boundary crossing, increased emotional pressure. This continues until you push back or you submit. Submission is rarely conscious. It happens through normalization. Section 11. Normalization. And the real trap. Once a test passes, behavior becomes routine. What once felt uncomfortable becomes just how they are. Your nervous system adapts. This is how control becomes invisible. You don't feel attacked. You feel adjusted. And adjusted people don't fight CK. Section 12. How you were conditioned. Net to fail tests. Many people were trained early to fail manipulation tests. Childhood patterns. Explaining to avoid punishment. Soothing volatile authority figures. Staying quiet to maintain safety. These patterns don't disappear. They resurface in adult relationships. Manipulators instinctively sense these traits. Not consciously. Behavioral. What? Section 13. The most important realization. Up here mentally. Manipulation is not something that happens to you. It's something that develops around you. Through repeated unchallenged tests. The goal is not to become aggressive. The goal is to become unreactive. Unreactive people are expensive to manipulate. Section 14. Identity lock-in. From this moment forward, you must change one thing. Stop asking, what did they mean by that? Start asking, what were they testing? This single shift dissolves confusion. You stop personalizing behavior. You start recognizing strategy. And once you see tests, you stop failing them unconsciously. This was only the foundation. In the next RT we will expose the verbal tests manipulators use, how jokes become weapons, how language is used to soften domination. Most people miss these completely. If this part felt uncomfortable, that's good. It means you're seeing patterns you were never meant to notice. Part 2. Verbal tests. How manipulators use words to measure and control you. Section 1. Why words are the safest weapon. Manipulators don't start with actions. Actions leave evidence. Actions can be challenged. Words are safer. Words can be denied, reframed, misunderstood. That's why verbal manipulation is always the second phase, never the first. By the time words are used strategically, the manipulator already knows something about you. You tolerate discomfort. You self-correct. You avoid conflict. Verbal tests are not about communication. They are about measurement. Section 2. The core purpose of verbal tests. Every verbal test is designed to answer one question. How will you respond when I bend reality slightly? Not break it. Not shatter it. Just bend it. If you correct the bend, you're difficult. If you absorb it, you're usable. That's the calculation. Section 3. The just joking test, This is the most widely used verbal probe. It sounds harmless. A joke that singles you out, slightly undermines you, targets something personal. And the moment you react, the shield appears. Relax. I was just joking. This test measures your tolerance for disrespect, your emotional regulation, your ability to call things out without apologizing. Now pause. Think carefully. When this has happened to you, did you laugh it off? Explain why it bothered you? Backtrack to avoid tension? If yes, the test succeeded. The manipulator learned. You can be destabilized and then neutralized with humor. Secti. On 4. Why explaining kills you. You hear. The worst possible response to a verbal test is explanation. Why? Because explanation accepts the frame, accepts the premise, accepts that you are the problem. The moment you say, I didn't mean it like that, you've already lost leverage. Manipulators don't argue facts. They observe reactions. You see. On 5. The backhanded compliment. T-test. This test is subtle and devastating. It sounds positive on the surface, but something feels off. Examples. You're actually smarter than I expected. You did well, for someone new. You're confident. I wouldn't have guessed. This test checks whether you'll accept praise mixed with insult, whether you'll correct the disrespect, whether you'll smile through devaluation. If you accept it silently, the manipulator learns. You'll swallow hierarchy if it's sugar-coated. That's dangerous. See. Tie 6. The fake cons are in test. This one hides behind empathy. Sounds caring. I'm just worried about you. I don't know if this is good for you. I'm saying this because I care. But listen carefully. Concern without invitation is control. This test measures whether you'll defend your choices, whether you'll seek approval, whether you'll justify autonomy. If you start explaining your decisions, the manipulator gains authority they were never given. Action 7. Why questions are OFT and weapons. Not all questions are neutral. Manipulative questions are leading, loaded, framed to force defense. Examples. Don't you think you're overreacting? Why are you so sensitive about this? Isn't this kind of dramatic? These questions aren't seeking answers. They are asserting conclusions. If you answer them directly, you accept the premise. That's the trap. Action 8. The misunderstand. And you loop. This test is repeated until you break. It goes like this. They say something cutting. You react. They claim misunderstanding. You explain. They repeat later. Each loop conditions you to doubt your perception. You begin thinking, maybe I'm reading too much into it. That self-doubt is not accidental. It's cultivated. Action 9. Why smart people F. All harder. Intelligent people are easier to manipulate verbally. Why? Because intelligence seeks coherence. When something feels off, smart people try to resolve it. Manipulators exploit this. They introduce ambiguity and let your mind do the work. You analyze. You rationalize. You contextualize. Meanwhile, the manipulator stays still and observes. The smarter you are, the more effort you put into explaining their behavior for them. Section 10. Verbal tests in profession. All settings. In workplaces, verbal tests are polished. They sound professional. Examples. I assumed you'd handle this better. I thought you were more resilient. Maybe you're not ready for this yet. These are not feedback. They are status probes. They test whether you'll overwork to prove yourself, accept lowered expectations, internalize doubt. If you do, authority shifts silently. Section 11. The timing test. Manipulators pay attention to when you respond. Do you respond immediately? Do you rush to clarify? Do you leave messages unread? Fast responses signal anxiety. Delayed responses signal independence. Timing is communication. And manipulators read it fluently. What? Section 12. The word. Reframing test. This is where language is twisted. You say, that didn't sit right with me. They respond, so you're accusing me now? This test checks whether you'll retreat, whether you'll soften, whether you'll apologize for asserting boundaries. If you do, your future boundaries will be ignored. Section 13. How verbal tests escalate. Verbal tests intensify only if earlier ones succeed. What starts as a joke becomes casual disrespect, open dismissal, public undermining. Manipulators don't jump levels. They climb ladders. Each rung is built on your previous silence. Section 14. The most important RUL. You pause here. Never respond to the content of a verbal test. Respond to the intent. Most people fail because they argue meaning. Manipulators operate on power. That mismatch keeps you losing. Section 15. Interactive check. Point mental. Stop listening for a moment. Ask yourself, who in your life jokes at your expense? Who frames concern around your choices? Who asks questions that make you defend yourself? If names surfaced instantly, that's not coincidence. That's pattern recognition waking you. Section 16. Why silence disrupt? As verbal tests. Silence breaks scripts. Verbal tests require engagement. No engagement equals no data. When you pause instead of responding, the manipulator loses rhythm. Their confidence drops. They expose intent accidentally. Silence doesn't escalate. It destabilizes. Section 17. Short respond. SES is shields. You don't need clever comebacks. You need containment. Examples. Interesting. I disagree. That's your interpretation. Short responses deny emotional access. Manipulators feed on expansion. Starve them. Section 18. Why overcorrection is a signal. When you rush to clarify tone, intent, or meaning, you broadcast insecurity. Manipulators read this as, this person fears being misjudged. That fear becomes leverage. The less you correct, the more grounded you appear. Section 19. The transition point. By now, something should feel different. You're no longer hearing conversations. You're hearing tests. This is the moment where most people get uncomfortable. Because awareness removes innocence. You can't unknow this. Section 20. Identity lock-eye. And from now on, apply one rule. If a conversation makes you explain your worth, your intent, or your emotions repeatedly, it is not a conversation. It's an evaluation, and you are not obligated to participate. In the next part, we move past words. We expose emotional tests, provocation, guilt, withdrawal, emotional pressure. These are the tests that trap people the longest and the hardest to escape. Part 3. Emotional tests. How manipulators harvest your reactions. Section 1. Why emotions are the real target. Words test boundaries. Emotions test control. Once a manipulator knows how you feel, they know how you move. Emotions are leverage because they override logic. They shorten time horizons. They force reactions. A calm person is expensive to control. An emotional person is cheap. That is why emotional tests always come after verbal ones. Section 2. The reaction halves. The manipulators don't want agreement. They want reaction. Reaction gives them timing data, sensitivity data, power data. They watch how fast you react, how intensely you react, how long it takes you to recover. Every emotional spike is information, and most people give it freely. Section 3. Provocation, the most direct emotional test. Provocation is intentional irritation. Not loud, not obvious, subtle enough to deny. Examples: dismissive tone, eye rolls, contradiction for no reason, public disagreement on trivial points. The goal is simple. Can I destabilize you on command? If you snap, explain, or overcorrect, the answer is yes. Section 4. Why anger is the favorite trig. Anger feels powerful. That's why it's dangerous. Anger narrows focus, lowers foresight, increases predictability. Manipulators love anger because angry people telegraph. They reveal what they care about, what they can't tolerate, where to press next time. The louder your anger, the clearer the map you give away. Section 5. The guilt test. Control without ICT. Guilt is the cleanest emotional weapon. It sounds moral. It sounds caring. Examples. After everything I've done for you, I thought you'd understand. I wouldn't do this to you. This test measures how responsible you feel for others' emotions, how quickly you self-blame, how easily your boundaries collapse under moral pressure. If guilt works once, it will be reused indefinitely. Secti. On 6. Why empathetic people are high-value ta. Forgets. Empathy is not weakness, but unbounded empathy is exploitable. Empathetic people absorb emotional states, prioritize harmony, feel responsible for resolution. Manipulators sense this quickly. They don't exploit kindness. They exploit emotional reflexes. The faster you move to soothe, the faster you surrender control. On 7. Withdrawal, the most addictive. Test. This is the most damaging emotional test, because it doesn't attack. It disappears. Withdrawal looks like silence, coldness, reduced availability, emotional distance. The test is brutal. What will you do when access is removed? If you chase, explain, apologize, or overextend, you've just taught them how to pull you. CC. Taiwan 8. Why withdrawal creates AD. Diction. Withdrawal triggers the brain's threat system. Loss of connection feels like danger. So the brain replays interactions, searches for mistakes, seeks restoration at any cost. This is how people accept terms they would never agree to calmly. The manipulator doesn't need to demand. Your nervous system negotiates for them. Taiwan 9. Emotional flooding, overwhelm as control. Some manipulators don't withdraw. They overwhelm. Sudden intensity, excessive emotion, rapid mood shifts, crisis energy. This test checks. Can you think under pressure? Can you maintain boundaries while flooded? Or do you submit just to stop the chaos? Flooding exhausts resistance. Tired people comply. On 10. Why fixing is a trap. Many people respond to emotional tests by trying to fix things. They explain. They apologize. They overfunction. This is exactly what the manipulator wants. Fixing behavior signals. You accept responsibility for emotional states. You will work to restore comfort. You will move first. Control shifts to whoever causes the problem. Taiwan 11. The timing of emotio. An test. Emotional tests are rarely random. They appear when you're tired, when you're distracted, when you're emotionally invested. Manipulators don't test strength. They test availability. If you're depleted, you're easier to steer. Taiwan 12. Why calm feels like threat to man. Manipulators. Here's a reversal most people miss. Manipulators are uncomfortable with calm. Calm means no reaction. No data, no leverage. That's why calm people are often labeled cold, detached, uncaring. These labels are not descriptions. They are pressure tactics. Action 13. The emotional do. You really bind. This is where people get stuck. If you react emotionally, you lose control. If you suppress emotion incorrectly, you look guilty or weak. The solution is not suppression. It's containment. You feel emotion. You don't hand it over. Action 14. Containment, the skill that testing. Containment means delayed response, minimal expression, internal processing. You don't deny emotion. You withhold performance. Manipulators rely on visible emotion. Invisible emotion starves them. Section 15. Interactive pause. Important. Stop for a moment. Think of one situation where someone's mood dictated your behavior. Someone's silence made you anxious. Someone's disappointment felt unbearable. Notice the pattern. That wasn't chemistry. That was conditioning. Section 16. How emotional tests escalate. If emotional tests succeed, they intensify. What starts as guilt becomes obligation, expectation, Entitlement. What starts as withdrawal becomes punishment, control, dependency. Escalation only stops when tests fail. Section 17. Failing emotional test. It's on purpose. Here's the counterintuitive truth. You don't pass emotional tests by being strong. You pass by being boring. No chase. No collapse. No emotional theater. Just steadiness. Manipulators disengage when there's no return on effort. Section 18. Why this feels uncomfortable. Awareness creates friction. You'll feel cold, distant, unkind. That discomfort is withdrawal from emotional addiction. You're not becoming less human. You're becoming less programmable. Section 19. The shift that changes everything. Once you stop reacting emotionally on command, something happens. People. Choose words carefully. Reduce pressure. Adjust expectations. Not because you demanded it, because the cost of testing you increased. Section 20. Identity lock-in. From this moment forward, remember this. If someone's emotional state controls your behavior, they control you. Your job is not to eliminate emotion. Your job is to own it privately. In the next part, we move into the most public and dangerous phase. Social and status tests. These are the tests that decide who leads, who submits, who becomes invisible. Most people fail these in front of witnesses. Part 4. Social and status tests. How manipulators lower you in front of others. Section 1. Why manipulation goes public. Manipulation escalates in stages. Private tests gather data. Verbal tests probe boundaries. Emotional tests condition reactions. Social tests do something else. They lock in hierarchy. Once a manipulator understands how you react privately, they test whether those reactions hold in front of others. Because power is not real until it's witnessed. Section 2. Status is not what you think it is. Most people believe status comes from competence, confidence, popularity. Those help. But status is actually decided by one thing: how others are allowed to treat you without consequence. Social tests exist to discover: what can I do to you publicly, and what will happen if I do? If the answer is nothing, your position is already weakening. Section 3. The public disrespect. This test is rarely obvious. It often looks like humor. Examples: a joke that lowers you slightly, a sarcastic remark at your expense, interrupting you mid-sentence, correcting you unnecessarily in front of others. The room watches, not to see what was said, but to see what happens next. Your response teaches everyone else how to treat you. Section 4. Why laughter is dangerous. Many people laugh to diffuse tension. That instinct is expensive. When you laugh at public disrespect, you signal acceptance, self-minimization, permission. Others in the group adjust instantly. They don't think, he's being cool. They think, that's allowed. Status is contagious. So is permission. Section 5. The I'm just being honest. This test hides behind truth. I'm just being honest. Someone had to say it. No offense, but honesty is used as cover for dominance. This test measures whether you'll challenge framing, whether you'll absorb humiliation, whether you'll stay silent to avoid conflict. Silence here is not neutrality. It's surrender. Section 6. Authority challenge. These happen when you hold a role: leader, expert, decision maker. The manipulator questions you publicly. Are you sure about that? That's not how I do it. Interesting choice. Not to gain clarity. To test whether your authority is self-held or crowd-dependent. If you explain nervously, authority leaks. If you stay composed, authority consolidates. Secti. On 7. Why defensiveness collapses. Status. Defensiveness signals insecurity. In private, it weakens leverage. In public, it destroys rank. The group reads defensiveness as uncertainty, lack of confidence, low internal authority. Once this perception forms, it's difficult to reverse. People remember moments of weakness far longer than competence. Secti. On 8. Group alliance. Test. This test uses numbers. The manipulator aligns subtly with others. Shared glances, side comments, group laughter. This creates social pressure. The test is, will you stand alone or will you fold to the group? If you retreat, you teach the group that consensus beats you. From that moment on, your voice carries less weight. Secti. On 9. Isolationist. TGs. Sometimes manipulation isn't loud. It's quiet exclusion. Conversations happen without you. Decisions are made elsewhere. Information reaches you late. This tests whether you'll confront, whether you'll overcompensate, whether you'll accept marginalization. Most people respond by trying harder. That confirms their lower position. Sectio. N10. Why overperforming BAC fires. When status is threatened, many people work harder. They contribute more, speak more, prove more. This is logical and disastrous. Overperforming under threat signals. I feel replaceable. Groups reward calm competence, not anxious effort. Effort is invisible when status is lost. Secti. On 11. Social humiliation as a test. This is rare but devastating. A manipulator may embarrass you openly, calling out a mistake, mocking a weakness, putting you on the spot. The room freezes. Your reaction becomes the story. Exploding loses control. Shrinking loses respect. What matters is containment. On 12. The rule of non-reaction. Important. In public, emotion is amplified. Small reactions look large. That's why containment is critical. You don't need to dominate. You need to remain unaffected. Calm under pressure signals rank. Always has. On 13. Status is maintained through stillness. Watch high-status individuals. They speak less, interrupt rarely, react slowly. They don't rush to fix perception. They let perception settle around them. Stillness is not passivity. It's gravity. Ion 14. How manipulators retreat. Here's what most people don't notice. When social tests fail, manipulators back off. Not dramatically, subtly. They redirect attention. They change targets. They stop testing. Because public resistance is costly. Manipulators prefer easy wins. Ion 15. Interactive pause. I am important. Pause mentally. Think of a moment where you were publicly minimized. You laughed when you shouldn't have. You explained yourself in front of others. Notice how the group dynamic shifted afterward. That shift wasn't imagined. It was learned. Ion 16. Why status is harder to recover than to protect. Losing status publicly creates memory. People remember the moment you folded, the moment you hesitated, the moment you laughed it off. Recovery requires consistency, controlled presence. Prevention is cheaper. Ion 17. The most important SOC. Yo rule. Never lower yourself to protect group comfort. Groups don't reward self-sacrifice. They reward stability. If harmony requires your self-erasure, it's not harmony. It's hierarchy. Ion 18. Failing social tests on purpose. Sometimes the best move is refusal, not confrontation. not explanation, refusal to play, a neutral response, a calm boundary, a controlled pause. This disrupts scripts and resets dynamics. Action 19. What changes when you stop failing? These tests. When you stop absorbing public disrespect, people speak more carefully. Jokes disappear. Challenges soften. Not because you became aggressive, because the cost increased. Section 20. Identity lock-in. From this point forward, remember, if someone lowers you publicly and you allow it, others will continue the work for them. Status is not defended with force. It's defended with composure. In the final part, we end this system. Shutdown and immunity. How to fail tests intentionally. How to become unreadable. How manipulators disengage permanently. What? Once you understand this, manipulation stops being a threat. It becomes noise. Part 5. Shutdown and immunity. How manipulators disengage permanent. Till what? Section 1. Why most people never become immune. Most people think immunity comes from strength. It doesn't. It comes from unprofitability. Manipulators don't stop because you fight back. They stop because the cost outweighs the reward. They are not emotional. They are economic. Your goal is not to win. Your goal is to become expensive. Secti. 2. The final question manipulator. Sask. After all tests, verbal, emotional, social, one question remains. Is this person worth the effort? If the answer is no, disengagement begins. Not dramatically, quietly. Manipulators don't rage when they lose access. They lose interest. That is the real V. Time 3. Why confrontation fails at T stage. Many people try to end manipulation by confronting it. They explain. They accuse. They demand change. This backfires. Confrontation feeds attention, signals emotional investment, reopens dialogue. Manipulators don't fear being exposed. They fear being ignored without reaction. Action 4. The shutdown principle. Shutdown is not silence alone. It is removal of emotional access. You still speak. You still interact. But nothing lands. Your tone stays neutral. Your responses stay short. Your energy stays contained. The manipulator feels something unfamiliar. Irrelevance. Section 5. Why short responses and long games. Manipulators rely on expansion. Stories, explanations, reactions. Short responses starve the system. Examples. I disagree. That doesn't work for me. Noted. No justification. No defense. No follow-up. Short responses close L. Oops. Section 6. Emotional reality versus coldness. This is important. Immunity is not coldness. Coldness is reactive. Neutrality is grounded. Coldness still signals emotion. Neutrality signals completion. Manipulators probe cold people. They abandon neutral ones. Section 7. The power of predictable calm. Manipulators thrive on volatility. Predictable calm is poison to them. When your reactions stop changing, they can't test timing. They can't escalate. They can't destabilize. They stop receiving feedback. No feedback equals no control. Section 8. Failing tests on purpose, final form. At this stage, you don't resist tests. You misalign with them. Provocation gets calm. Guilt gets neutrality. Withdrawal gets no chase. This is not strategy. This is identity. Manipulators sense identity immediately. Section 9. Why you must stop explaining forever. Explanation reopens doors. Even justified explanations signal. You still matter enough to convince. Immunity means you explain decisions once, if at all. You don't argue perception. You don't clarify emotions repeatedly. You let misunderstanding exist. Misunderstanding filters people. Section 1. 0. The final withdrawal from the game. Here's what happens next. The manipulator tests once more, receives nothing, redirects attention elsewhere. This can feel anticlimactic. There is no apology, no admission, no closure. Closure is a fantasy. Disengagement is the real ending. Section 11. Why this feels lonely at F. Immunity removes drama. Drama creates connection. False connection, but connection. When you shut down manipulation, fewer people pull on you. Fewer conversations escalate. Fewer interactions feel intense. This calm can feel empty at first. That's not loss. That's space. Section 12. Who stays after I am immune? 90. When manipulation disappears, something else becomes clear. Who remains? Those who respect boundaries. Those who don't need leverage. Those who don't test you. Who leaves? Those who fed on reaction. Those who thrived on imbalance. Those who needed control. This is not rejection. It's sorting. Section 13. Why immune people are. Immunity requires tolerance for misunderstanding, comfort with silence, emotional self-ownership. Most people outsource emotional regulation. Immune people don't. That makes them unpredictable. And unpredictability is safety. Section 14. The final shift in identity. At this point, something changes internally. You stop asking, why are they doing this? You start assuming, if this is a test, it will fail. This assumption changes posture, tone, presence. Manipulators feel it immediately. Section and 15. Interactive final C. Point. Pause. Think of one person who used to trigger you, guilt you, control the emotional temperature. Now imagine responding with calm, minimal words, no explanation. Notice the relief. That relief is autonomy returning. Section and 16. Why you no longer need strategy. Strategy is for unstable environments. Immunity stabilizes the environment. You don't need to calculate responses. You don't need to rehearse. Your default becomes calm, contained, unavailable for games. That's not armor. That's alignment. Section 17. What others see when you reach immunity. From the outside, people will say, you've changed. You're different now. You don't react anymore. They're right. You didn't become harder. You became clearer. Section 18. The final rule, remember, are this. Manipulation only works where there is emotional urgency, need for approval, fear of loss. Remove urgency. Remove approval seeking. Remove fear. The system collapses. Time 19. Life after manipulation. After immunity, conversations simplify. Boundaries hold without effort. Silence becomes comfortable. You don't dominate rooms. You anchor them. Anchors don't move. Others adjust around them. Section 20. Final identity lock. Can end. This is the final truth. If someone cannot control your emotions, cannot rush your decisions, cannot provoke your reactions, they cannot control you. You don't need to prove this. Your presence will communicate it for you. End of video. This is not a technique. This is an exit. From here on, manipulation becomes visible, predictable, and irrelevant.